So this is the panel I'm going with for this boat. It's a 4-gang 12-volt switch panel, and this one has red LED lights, a cigarette lighter style 12-volt plug right here, and of course the customary USB ports. It does have LED lights down here. For the back, we have power going in. That's what these two red wires are for. The black wire is the ground wire for the switches, and then blue is power for your lower LED lights, and yellow is ground for the lower LED lights. This is a different brand from what I used previously, and I actually like what I'm seeing on this. So I did a lot of customizations on the previous switch panel that I installed. One of the main things that I didn't like before was that everything was run off of one power line. It powered everything. So it powered the meter if it had one, it powered the USB ports and the cigarette lighter style plug, and then it ran power all the way down to all of the switches. I didn't really like that because I like to fuse my things individually just to give extra protection. And what I noticed right away on this panel is that they broke out the panel, the 4 switches, into 2 separate power lines. So that's what these two are, and they're individually fused already. So that's a big improvement. I don't need to do as many cuts and customizations to this panel right here. So that's for power coming in. So what I will do with this one is actually keep these 2 lines coming in. But what I will do is, like I did before, disconnect the power going from these leads up here down here to the individual switches. So you'll see that they go in here, out here. And I'm gonna cut this off because I wanna be able to fuse each one of these individually, these red wires going in. And that will give me the protection that I want for each individual switch. I won't have to do anything down here. These are where the individual leads coming from the different components, like the deck lights, bilge pump, hatch lights, nav lights. Those 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, those are my 4 different things I'll connect up down here. So what I'll do first is cut the power leads that are coming out of the upper plugs that are taking in power here. I'm gonna cut the leads that are going down to these 4 switches. Again, I want to fuse these individually. I don't want them to run off of this fuse or that fuse. I'm going to depend on these 2 fuses to just protect the 2 top switches. So what I'll end up connecting right here are all the wires coming from my fuse box to the switch panel. So that's how these switches are going to receive power, from the fuse box, not from here. My fuse box has individual fuses that will protect each individual switch. So that's the preference. You don't have to do it this way at all. You can plug and play. Just use this how it comes out the box. But these are typical mods that folks do on their boats, just to give the appropriate protection. And it's all up to everyone's comfort level. But the fuse box bus bar combos already come with fuses, so why not use it to its best ability? So that's the mod I'll do, is cut these and connect new wires here when it gets to that point. All right, so the first thing I want to do is just go ahead and disconnect these 4. No freaking way. So let me tell you what just happened. I just broke this switch panel. I was pulling on it too hard and broke off the inside piece. So I was pulling this out, like I said, and yanked on it too hard and totally broke it. So that absolutely sucks. I took off the switch and tried to see if I could fix it. And in the end, that's what I've got. This is completely done. I mean, it just like fell apart in all kind of different pieces and stuff like that. And the reason why it happened is, and I should have paid more attention, maybe you can even see it on this one. There's a little lever right here that you have to press, and you may not be able to see it, but you got to press in on a little lever that releases the clip, and I didn't do that. That's what I get for not paying attention and rushing, I guess. So I completely screwed that up. So I had to go ahead and bite the bullet myself and buy a new control panel. I even priced out replacing the 2 switches because I did it to 1, didn't even realize it. You can see the piece of metal is still in there that popped out right there. I did it to 1 and then pulled out the other. It wasn't until I pulled out the other that I realized, oh my gosh, I pulled out the post. So I priced replacing just the actual switch, but by the time I buy 2 switches, it's almost the price of a whole control panel. So with that being said, we've got our replacement right here. This one's on me for the bolt, and we're gonna continue and get it done. I'm gonna be a lot more careful, of course, and make sure I don't repeat this mistake twice. But costly mistake right there, could be worse. I've made other mistakes that cost me more, but I wasn't trying to make any mistakes at all. So out with the old, in with the new. Got the same game plan. I'm gonna take my time, I mean really take my time, and remove the red connectors right here. Slid right off. That slid right off. There we go. We got all 4 off. Mission complete. Tough little lesson, but we're moving on. All right, so what I want to do next is cut the power that's going from the top part of the panel, because power is coming in these two separately on 2 different power cords. They piggybacked off of that going to the switches. And remember, I'm going to power the switches individually myself. So I'm just going to cut these where they connect. One right there. I'm going to cut this off here. All right, that's that. And of course, you don't want to leave open bare wire sticking out. These will actually be hot. So I'm just going to take some red liquid tape and just cap this off. I put a couple dabs of liquid tape right there, and that will protect the circuit. That'll protect everything. One thing I may end up doing is joining these 2 together instead of running 2 separate lines to the fuse box. I'm gonna think about that some more and decide on that. But other than that, this is done and the switch panel is ready to go. I'm gonna run a little test just to make sure that the switch panel still works before I go connecting up all the wires and different components to it. So right now I am connecting up the power lead to this piece right here. Yep, we got power there, and can't really test this right now because there's no light for it. All right, so as a last test, I'm going to connect up the bottom LED strip just to make sure it still works. Everything is still working. All right, so the control panel is ready to go. All right, guys, I'm gonna call a late game audible right now, and I think it's a blessing in disguise how this happened. I haven't installed this switch panel yet. I've made the panel out, but I haven't installed it. And one of the reasons is I've been waiting on the hydroturf to come in because this panel needs to flow with the hydroturfing. So what I mean by that is I need to know the exact height I need to raise the panel, have the panel come up to meet flush with the hydroturf. I'm deciding to not install a switch panel right here. It was going to be in the panel that goes right here. I'm going to install it over here. There are actually 2 improvements this will create. One, inside the hatch, I won't see the back of this panel and I won't see any wires. Okay, so that's going to make this panel even more usable. The entire space in here will be usable space for whatever you want. Gear, fishing tackle, whatever. So that's a major plus. The second plus is I don't have to wait on hydroturf anymore. There's actually 3 improvements to this. By turning this bracket the other side and bringing the wall out some, it will make hiding this a lot easier. This will be behind the wall. Before I was going to bring the wall here and, you know, turf around it and make it look nice that way. But this way I don't even have to worry about that. And the reason why I made this panel really close to the side of the boat was I wanted to give as much space as possible, usable space in the cockpit area of the boat. I think that's really important. But in reality, I'll only be losing about 1.5 inches of space. That's just a small amount of space you lose inside the cockpit with a lot to gain. So I think that's a great trade-off. Reframe this, so move this angle here, change the bottom, flip this, have it come this way, and have this top part face out. So that'll serve as the wall that the panel will connect to. This will allow me to continue with the project at the pace I want to go, and also improves the usability of this hatch. Win-win. Now that's dope. You may have heard other builders talk about this. Sometimes your first decision isn't always your best one. And by getting more time to think and look at it and look at it again and look at it again, you come up with new ideas all the time. That's proved itself to be true and true over and over again. I can't express how many times I've looked at this boat or my boat, and it's been 2 days I've been looking at it. And on that 3rd day, it's like light bulb. And you figure out exactly what needs to be done, which is an even better solution than you had in your original thought. So pretty excited about that. I'm gonna knock this out really quick and just reframe that. So what I'll be able to do is run the wires that are coming from my fuse box behind this wall, and it'll come out here where the switch panel will be. So everything will be super hidden. Yeah, I'm actually really excited about this. I'll probably time warp through this. I'm just gonna redo what I did here already, all right? Now I want to work on my side panel, and I've got 3 things I'll be installing into the panel. I'll be installing the switch panel, the battery meter, and the dimmer switch for the deck lights. So first thing I'm going to do is figure out exactly where I want to have it located. I have to account for the conduit pipe that's behind the panel and also the spacing behind the panel. The lower end of the panel behind it is a lot thinner from the panel to the side of the boat, and as you go up it's wider, but I have a conduit running right behind this. So this has to be positioned perfectly to be below the conduit, but yet not too far to the floor of the boat to where you'll be kicking it or anything like that. So I'm gonna try to install this close to this sidewall just to keep it protected in this little pocket right here. This is flush, so I'm not worried about that. That'll be flush. And this dimmer switch is pretty small, shouldn't be a problem either. My personal preference, I like the switch panel to be as snug as possible. So I'm gonna measure around these switches, similar to how I did it on my boat. My recommendation is to go this route. That way you can get the cutout right around your switches. And that will allow more metal for you to screw your screws into and ultimately secure the switch panel. All right, got my square cut out. So I just eyeballed it. Because the hole saw shifted to the left a little bit, I shifted my top hole a little bit to the left as well. So just to demo the dimmer switch going through, perfect size hole, like no space, very snug, nice, very snug fit. I'm gonna leave it just like that. There you go, bits flush on there. This is my little makeshift painting booth, guys. Cardboard boxes. But yeah, that went on pretty easy. I see why people like this paint. I'm gonna see how it looks when it dries. It's dry to the touch in 15 minutes, so I'm gonna let that 15 minutes happen and then decide if I will add a second coat or not, which I think I will, but we'll see. But yeah, I decided to go with this paint again. Shout out to Michael Lopez, TB Nation. Watch one of his videos, and he painted the outside of his boat with this stuff, and it came out really nice. So I figured if it's good enough for the outside of a boat, it should do justice to a small panel like this. In all, this came out really well. I could just leave it like this, but I do see one spot here that could use a little more paint. This top left corner could use a little more paint too, but I think a second coat will just solidify the deal. All right, so I want to go ahead and get this control panel installed in the newly painted panel. Looks really good. What I just decided to do right here is I am going to go ahead and remove the 2 fuses that are on the back of this panel, and this will be the ingoing power to the 2 top ports right there. I'm gonna fuse that myself. All right, so it will be fused, it will be protected. I'll put a 15 amp fuse in the fuse box. I'm gonna run these wires to the box directly. Reason being is, once I install this switch panel, if you're ever in a situation where either of these 2 ports right here stop working, you need to be able to troubleshoot it without removing this switch panel or removing that whole panel. In order to do that, I'm gonna keep all fusing centralized to this fuse box right here. So all you have to do is open this hatch and check your fuses in here. I think that's the most efficient and convenient way to do it. So I'll go ahead and cut these fuses off, extend these wires because they'll be short, and join them together into one lead with a 15 amp fuse coming off of that fuse box right there. Now I'm just making all the leads that's gonna go from the fuse box to the switch panel. So this is it right here. I'm connecting power leads to these 6. All of this is power coming out. Power goes in from the battery from here, comes out on these. Each one is individually fused, which is why I'm running a wire from each one to each switch. Again, painted my screws black to match the profile. Takes a little bit of extra time, but in the end, looks that much more better. More better, is that a word? All right, everything is done. Really satisfied with how it all came out. I didn't know how the aluminum panel would behave. This is only 0.040 aluminum, very lightweight stuff. Of course, trying to keep everything light on this build, but it did really well. Of course, take your time when you're screwing any screws into aluminum. I don't care what the thickness is. Aluminum is very soft. Here's the inside fuse box. So what you saw me do right there was just upgrade this to a 12 circuit panel from a 6 circuit. Reason being, I didn't want to have to jump any of these, meaning double them up to get power. So on the smaller panel, I actually ran out of space and I doubled up a couple, and I'd rather not do that. So went ahead and upgraded this to 12. So we actually have a few extras here. I know I'll need another one for the fish finder. So I know I'll definitely take up one more of these and then leave 2 extras for any kind of future mods. And there are 6 extra ones for the negative side in case it's ever needed. But yeah, I'm actually very, very satisfied with this, and this is definitely the way to go. I'm actually going to upgrade my boat as well and put in this exact same switch panel that has 12 circuits on it, because I did have to double up on my boat on a couple switches with all the electronics that I installed.